the rain or shine. She's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie, the riveter, keeps a sharp lookout for sabotage. Sitting up there on the fuselage, that little frail can do more than a male can do. Rosie, the riveter. Rosie's got a boyfriend, Charlie. Charlie, he's a Marine. Rosie is protecting Charlie, working overtime on the riveting machine. When they gave her a production knee, she was as proud as a girl could be. There's something true about red, white, and blue about Rosie, the riveter. The riveter, Rosie, 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 working on assembly line.
Hey guys, welcome back. In case you hadn't guessed it, we're going to be learning about somebody named Rosie the Riveter today and the vital role she played in winning World War II for the United States. Today we're going to look at the impact of World War II at home. Specifically, we're going to look at how the war impacted the nation's economy, consumers, women, and African Americans. And we're going to jump right into this. You can join me over on the reading on Google Classroom. I will see you there. During World War II, the United States government supervised all aspects of the economy. To support American and Allied troops fighting on the front lines, it urged American farmers and workers to produce food and equipment. In 1942, President Roosevelt announced previously unheard of wartime production goals: 60,000 airplanes, 45,000 tanks, 20,000 anti-aircraft guns, and 8 million tons of merchant shipping. To meet these goals, a war production board converted factories from consumer-oriented production to military production. Factories that formerly produced shirts redesigned their assembly lines to make mosquito netting. Model train producers now manufactured bomb fuses. Automobile companies switched to full-time production of tanks, trucks, armored personnel carriers, and aircraft. Now I'm going to ask you guys to read the next paragraph on your own. Wartime production ends the Depression. And answer question 1, what was the impact of World War II on the United States economy? So we're going to watch a 3-minute video about this topic of how the war impacted the economy. I'm going to ask you guys to take some notes on question 2. We'll see you back here at the end.
An army of 150,000 men, women, and children invaded an American city. Whites, Negroes, Indians, Creoles, Cajuns. They came from every corner of the land, their roots in every curve of the globe. Moscow, Indiana, Warsaw, North Dakota, Hamburg, California, Milan, Missouri, Baghdad, Kentucky. Some came out of patriotism, some out of grim necessity, some for a richer life. All came to do a war job. This could be any one of 100 great American war centers. It happens to be Mobile, Alabama. But the story is the same in every war town in America.
The chronic unemployment that had eaten at Mobile and every other American town for more than a decade during the Depression was over. Idle factories were back in business. Mass production was an American invention, but now it reached levels its inventors could never have imagined. Nearly all manufacturing was converted to the war effort. In 1941, more than 3 million cars had been manufactured in the United States. Only 139 more were made during the entire war. Instead, Chrysler made fuselages. General Motors made airplane engines, guns, trucks, and tanks. And at its vast Willow Run plant in Ypsilanti, Michigan, 67 acres of assembly lines under a single roof that one observer called the Grand Canyon of the mechanized world. The Ford Motor Company performed something like a miracle, 24 hours a day. The average Ford car had some 15,000 parts. The B-24 Liberator long-range bomber had 1,550,000 parts. One came off the line at Willow Run every 63 minutes. If the American military wasn't yet quite equal to the Germans or the Japanese, American workers would soon be able to build ships and planes faster than the enemy could sink them or shoot them down. By the end of the war, more than one-half of all the industrial production in the world would take place in the United States.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to read the next paragraph on that reading. It says rationing, and answer question 3 in your own words. What is rationing? So we're going to watch another short video about this topic of rationing, and again, as you watch, I'd like you to jot down 3 facts on question 4.
As the country mobilized for total war, Americans at home were asked by their government to do without most of the luxuries and many of the necessities they had begun to take for granted. Everything seemed to be rationed or in short supply. Gasoline and fuel oil and rubber, bobby pins and zippers and tin foil, shoes and whiskey and chewing gum, butter and coffee and nylons and tomato ketchup and sugar, canned goods and cigarettes, and the matches needed to light them.
I guess the deep down feeling I had is that they made us sacrifice. And if we were sacrificing, we would somehow feel closer to the war effort. And I think that's really what they were trying to do, was to get your attitude in that our fighting men and women don't have these, so you shouldn't have these, and somehow you'll get tied into the war effort.
We did without during the Depression, so doing without these commodities really was not hard. Recipes were adjusted according to what you could get. Now, there were shortages all over. You could get very little white flour. Cakes were all adjusted to no sugar, very little fat or shortening of any sort. So cakes took it as hard as anything. To have a birthday cake was a real treat because it meant they had to save everything to make one cake.
Look, miss, see that? You could drive a car from Los Angeles to New York with the gas that plane burns up in just 1 hour of combat. It takes 2 million gallons of gas to send a single 1,000-bomber raid over enemy territory. That's enough to drive 1,000 private automobiles 7,500 miles a year for 4 years. Now, where would you rather see that no gas sign? At his station or here?
But many people tried to get around rationing. And a thriving black market grew up to satisfy those who couldn't do without. According to one study, 1 in every 4 retail transactions during the war was illegal.
Okay, guys, please read the next 2 sections on your own. It says Rosie the Riveter and women serve in the armed forces. And when you're done, you can answer question 5. What new opportunities did World War II create for women? So before we go on, I'd actually like to take a look at a very famous poster of this lady, Rosie the Riveter. This was painted by Norman Rockwell, a very famous American artist. I'm going to ask you at the end of this to jot down 3 details in this poster which demonstrate how women's roles changed. First off, Rosie is holding this giant rivet gun. This was something used to fasten plates of metal together, particularly on airplane fuselages. When I ask students how to describe Rosie's appearance in this painting, they often say she's brolic. She is muscular, and she needs to be for the kind of work she does. So this is something that's going to be a change. Women in the past frequently were associated with wearing dresses, and Rosie has stepped up here to take on the men's roles. The men are off fighting in the war. Women had to do jobs which were traditionally men's work. You'll notice if you look carefully, she's standing on top of a book called Mein Kampf. That book was Adolf Hitler's autobiography. Clearly, Rosie is fighting the enemy with the work she's doing. She's got a halo on her head showing just how valuable and important she is. She's an American hero. She's got the American flag behind her. And there she is, eating a sandwich and looking very proud about what she does. This demonstrates the pride a lot of women felt in the kind of work they were doing to support the war effort. So I'd like you to take a moment and answer question 6. What details do you see in this poster which demonstrate the changing role for women? Alright, last but not least, you're going to read that last section of the reading. It says, minorities face a dilemma. And I'd like you to answer question 7. What was the dilemma that African Americans faced in being asked to fight in World War II? So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. When we come back here next time, we're going to look at another group that we didn't discuss today, and that's Japanese Americans and a situation called the Japanese American internment. I hope you guys are doing your best to stay safe. Miss you guys. Please send me a text if you have any questions or issues. I will see you soon.